Hi, everyone. Just one second. Tonight, the topic of the class, the workshop, is called Building Emotion While Sheltering in Place. And it's something that I feel like is really time relevant. I know that this time is really, really challenging for a lot of us in terms of the situation and the uncertainty. And especially if you're living alone or if you're not in a relationship, it's really scary and haunting to kind of just feel that solitude right now. So I wanted to really just focus on what we can all be doing to get that relationship of our dreams and to really be relationship ready by the time, God willing, this horrible situation is finished. Okay, so, oh, whoops. I'm sorry, I just messed up the share screen again. Hold on.
Hi. Hey guys. Hi Sarah.
Hey, how are you?
You hear me?
I can, yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you doing okay? Are you all right?
Yes, I am. I'm messing up with the my share screen a little bit, but I'm getting the hang of it. It should be okay.
Okay. It's okay. Just yeah. We're
Okay.
just so glad you're okay. That's the main thing.
Yeah, fine. I'm fine, thank God. Okay. Except I lost managed participants. Okay, hopefully, I don't know if anybody else is trying to get in. Um, but all right. Um, Thank you to Rachel for really hosting this and organizing this.
Oh,
I'm really grateful to have this opportunity as well. Okay,
so
so
are we. And whoever's on, welcome. We are so excited to have you. Our first Love Potion number 19 virtual series. And we're so honored to have Sarah Abenaim join us as well. Thank you so much, Sarah.
thank you. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a life coach and also a relationship strategist. So what does that mean? My mission is to really work with singles to help, and also people in relationships, uncover and eliminate what holds them back from having an amazing relationship, basically the relationship of your dreams. And the way I work with people usually is through group classes such as this, or one-on-one coaching, workshops. And I also have a specific program called Date Like a Devil, which really gets you ready through a series of 3 months of working together. And I've had spectacular reviews from people who've gone through it. They really enjoyed it. But a little bit about me: who am I and why do I do this? Because I, like all of you guys, was also at some point single, and I really struggled to understand what is a healthy relationship and what is impactful and what kind of behavior is acceptable and is not. And what I've seen through the years is that so many people, they rush into a marriage or they rush into a relationship without being emotionally mature and without thinking that it's a constant process of working on themselves and becoming their best self. And I think that that's where a lot of conflict occurs because people are feeling stuck and they don't have the skills. And my goal is really to have people having these healthy relationships throughout their whole lives, of being connected with somebody, and to avoid, missteps later on in life. So if we could all have some kind of exposure to that earlier on, I think it would solve a lot of trauma. So one thing I discovered throughout all of this, which is really a key secret, is something that I'm hoping to reveal later on and really to share with everybody, that I think is very impactful. So a question that I get often asked is, what is coaching? How does it differ from therapy? And what's really the difference? What is coaching? So whereas with therapy, you oftentimes explore your past and your childhood, and you're given different techniques to work through it. And there's like a lot of sifting through your feelings and your thoughts. With coaching, we don't really care about your past. We care about your future and your vision and where you want to go. And the point of coaching is that together we come up with a way, and actually practical, tactical solutions to get you where you want to go. The ideas don't really come from me, they come from you. And through a series of discussions and questions and answers, you're able to actually unlock what that is that you're looking for. It's really tailored and it's really personal. And actually what's amazing about doing group work like this is that you guys can feed off of each other and share amazing ideas and really learn from the next person. And not only that, after this, if you know anybody else in this workshop, or even if you don't know anybody else and you want to message somebody and get to know that other person, you can also hold each other accountable and say, hey, how is that working for you? And what are you keeping up with? And it's really like an amazing experience that can come from working in a group. So this group lecture is really for people who are committed to becoming their best self and to having the relationship of their dreams. So if that's you and that's something that you want, then you're in the right place. And I really want to thank you all for taking that first step to making yourself really relationship ready and being your best self. And even just showing up tonight says a lot about what kind of person you are. So you guys should all be really happy that, you know, that you're taking these steps to put in the effort. So for right now, the world is really just like super upside down with everybody sheltering in place. And I think like what a big, I think a few people are not muted. If you guys don't mind to just mute yourselves, it creates extra noise. I think a big feeling for a lot of people is that there's a pervasive sense of loneliness right now. And what does that do for us? What does that cause us to feel? You know, a lot of us in the beginning when this pandemic occurred, everybody rushed out to make sure their basic needs were met. We bought toilet paper, we bought food, we bought water, and then the lockdown began. But what about our social interactions? How are we talking to people? How are we communicating with other people? You know, what's going on? What are we doing for that? And then like Zoom became super popular and people are FaceTiming, but it doesn't actually replace social, like healthy, like normal, healthy social interactions, but we've got to deal with what we have and make the best of it. Sometimes I even just feel like when I go to the supermarket and I'm chatting with a cashier, like, whoa, that's like an amazing interaction. I'm actually seeing another human being and it's really exciting. But we have to find ways of coping with what we have right now and making the best of the situation that we have. So I'm going to just share this screen. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay. So what are emotions? Emotion is actually energy in motion. And if you saw in the title, I called it E-motion because it's the blend of those two things together. Our thoughts, starts up here, become an emotion in our hearts, and then our emotions translate into our actions. So what that means is that you can wake up in the morning and you could have a thought, I forgot to clean my house. It's disgusting. It's a huge mess. And then you come out of bed and you're frazzled. You're running around, you're bumping into things, you're dropping things because you have these emotions of stress. And so it becomes like a follow through, a big follow through of one thing after the other. And I have this little neat diagram that I hope you guys can see at the bottom, where it's just a big circle of feelings and emotions and thoughts and actions. And if you can break a part of that pattern, you're actually able to change your emotions. So if you don't like your feelings, you can change your actions and it will change the feelings and change the thoughts. If you change any one part of that, you won't have those feelings anymore. So if you're feeling super lonely at this point in quarantine, you can change your actions to not feel so lonely anymore. Like, for example, calling somebody, having a nice conversation, or doing something that you enjoy. And those actions will in turn change your feelings. So Ben Franklin said, be not afraid of growing too slowly, be afraid of standing still. And that's something that's also very important to remember during this time, is that the world around us is constantly changing. But if we stay the same, we're going to essentially deteriorate. And you have to always stay on top of your game. You always have to take each opportunity as a chance to grow and to become your best self. Because like, for example, if we thought it's always summer, then we're always wearing our summer clothing and we're not noticing that outside the world and the seasons are changing, we're going to deteriorate, we're going to freeze. And if you're still having your same relationship habits as you did 3 years ago, whereas everybody else is changing and growing and evolving, then you're stuck, you're going to deteriorate. It's like if you're still dating the same way you were 10 or 20 years ago before there was text messaging and cell phones, then you're not evolving, you're just going to get stuck and you're not going to be successful. So another thing that I just wanted to say is that because you came tonight, you're committing to growing and to evolving and to not staying the same way as you are. And that's a really important thing as well. Okay, I'm gonna just pause this. Oops, sorry. Oh no, that wasn't supposed to happen. Pause share. Okay, sorry about that. So why is it that sheltering in place can be so dangerous for our emotions? And I think that I wanted to open up the floor to you guys to type in, this is like it's supposed to be an interactive webinar, type into the chat box, what are reasons that you think sheltering in place can be so dangerous for emotions? So if you want to take a minute to chat, I really hope that you guys will participate. And I'm going to open up, I'm going to see if I can find the chat box. No, I can't find the chat box. Sorry, what did you say? Did somebody say something?
We can just answer, right?
Oh yeah, you can unmute yourselves. That might be best if that's easier for you.
Okay.
I have to get out of this. I'm in the wrong screen now, and I don't know how to get out of it. Hold on a second. Okay, so if anybody wants to chime in now, why they think it's, oh, I see the chat here. Great, so somebody commented, I miss my family and my friends. And that can be really challenging for our emotions. That is true. Anybody else want to chime in with something?
I mean, we don't really have anything to check ourselves against, right? Like, especially, I don't know, I live alone. So I'm not bouncing any ideas, anything. Like, I don't answer to anybody on a daily basis. Whereas if I were going into the office, like, I have to check myself. Like, I can't just be in a bad mood. My mood is affecting other people. So, like, in that way, there isn't that daily check up on, like, am I being reasonable? Like, am I growing? Like, there's not any sort of like framework for anything. So I actually read somewhere that you become the worst version of yourself in isolation. And like, that's, I would hazard a guess to say that's why.
That is so true. That is so true. You kind of get stuck in your habits and you just don't have anybody to say like, hey, you know, like for example, not that this is you, but like it's 11:30, it's time to get up. Or, you know, why didn't you sit and make a healthy meal? Like, what are you eating right now? I don't know if you necessarily want that, or that may not be, I'm just throwing it out there, but like sometimes we do need other people and it becomes,
or right. Even like you're being grumpy today.
Right.
Like,
right.
There's no reason for me not to be grumpy. How are, you know,
right.
How am I affecting anybody else?
Right. That is so true. Thank you for sharing that with us. I see somebody else commented in the chat box that it's hard to connect only by phone. Sometimes people don't answer their phones or return calls. It is hard, and it's not the same as even sitting with somebody. What I found actually is people who are doing Zoom Shiva calls, I found it to be very challenging to have a Zoom Shiva call, because whereas you can show up to a regular Shiva call and just sit next to a person and feel comforted and comfortable to a certain extent, you can't just like show up at a Zoom Shiva visit and sit there like this. I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's a very different dynamic. So I think that there are a ton of challenges in this. Okay, hold on. Let's just reshare this and pause it.
It's so fantastic to confront. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, thanks.
It's so important to confront.
It's what?
Already so helpful to me. Thank you. This is so fantastic. Just that we're confronting it. We need to confront it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Hi, I have a comment.
Sure.
Basically, you touched upon something. It's funny you mentioned the Shiva call, because when I had to call the Rebbitzins' house to speak to the rabbi because the Rebbitzins' mother passed away, I couldn't even bring myself to speak to her. I asked the rabbi to do it for me because, well, normally when I go to a Shiva call, you know, protocol is you walk in and you don't say anything and, you know, you just wait for them to speak. And so I spoke to the rabbi for like 10, 15 minutes, and he said, would you like to speak to the Rebbitzin? I panicked and I said, no, I don't. Just tell her I called. Thank you. And then I hung up. And I felt silly
hard.
afterwards.
It's really hard. We're really in challenging times and we're asked to like behave so differently. And there's so many different expectations. And I'm sure even from like a dating perspective, I don't know how many of you have tried to like do a Zoom date or like a virtual date. I'm sure it's just not as comfortable as seeing and feeling a person's physical presence next to you. So, I see somebody's hand is raised, but I don't know how to answer that. So if that person wants to unmute themselves and pop in and say a comment, that's totally welcome as well. Okay. I didn't hear, oh, here's somebody else's. Okay. So I think that it's really dangerous, like additionally to all the great, amazing insight everybody else added, that is dangerous to shelter in place, because we also might, and I didn't catch her name, the woman who got on and so boldly said, because we don't have anybody to check in with us, we can become stale and forgotten if we're just left.
Are you talking about Rebecca?
Rebecca, yes, I suppose she's a very beautiful young woman who I saw on before, who was glowing. So we can become stale and forgotten. We can get stuck in our habits. We lose the standards of socialization that we've worked so hard to establish before. You know, we become so impersonal with people, and that becomes our new norm. And we don't want to get trapped because some of us like maybe live in a smaller apartment and there's not a lot of movement, and you don't want to get trapped in your emotions because you're not moving your body. So what I want to shift for you guys is to say, like, let's take this opportunity of sheltering in place to almost be like, imagine a caterpillar going into a cocoon and emerging afterwards as a beautiful butterfly. Take this challenging time and really go internal and work on yourself and see how you can become your best self during this time, so that when this pandemic, God willing, is done, you are totally relationship ready. Okay. Oh, somebody commented, virtual dating is much the same as regular dating, a whole lot of ghosting and too many options. No commits to talking to anyone. Does anyone else find this? Yes, that must be really hard, because it's probably so much easier to just hang up on a virtual date and get rid of the person if you're not enjoying it, and to not actually give somebody a chance. Whereas in real life, it's a little bit harder to get rid of the person.
Mhm.
So I definitely hear that as well. Okay, so we're gonna really try to focus
Can
on
we just
using.
chime in, or is like, and just
Sure,
sort of?
yeah, you could chime in. I love.
I mean, I'll say so. I guess I don't know. We're not. It's not like a group, but I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Daniel. I know
That was
ours because
great.
she's.
I think that's a great idea. We should all introduce ourselves, actually, if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can.
yeah. We'll
I
introduce
know, and
ourselves.
I think that's
I'll
really
make this quick.
tight.
So my
Right.
name is
If you want,
Daniel.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm 31. I'll just kind of go along with what everyone says. So I live at home, so I don't really miss. It's a little bit hectic because like my mom, my brother both work. My mom works at Yeshivat Noam, my brother works at SAR. Schools are obviously shut down. It's hectic with the Zoom for them. I think anybody who lives with a lot of people, there's definitely struggles too, because you're in everyone's face, and it's like it's. I was just telling cousins and friends like, this situation kind of feels like if anybody doesn't like this, just traveling, like you go on a plane, like the seats are kind of small, you know, it's like you can bear it, you're getting on depending how long you're flying. Like me and my family used to go to Israel and Belgium, so it was a long flight. By the end, it's just like enough. And the hard thing about this whole situation is we don't know when it's going to end, so it's just like it's frustrating. And you know, you can go outside and socially distance, but 100% common sense is just, and just what you were saying, it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's like everyone's jobs, it's like people want to just be together, you know. I mean, like Mother's Day is coming up next week. I mean, Shabbat. I mean, people can't. I mean, this is kind of the essence of, I would say, humanity is connection and you know, socialization. I mean, I'm a very social person. I've worked in like nursing homes since I was 18, and just sort of switched out of healthcare and geriatrics. And, you know, I went into hospitality business where it's more customer service and not just seniors. And, you know, the everything was shutting down, and like it was just such a shame because you know, it's, look, everybody, look, you have to. I was at a point where I wasn't working, and you know, it was just like, this is not normal. You have to, you know, you got to work, and you know, and I used to be in the activities department, so I was in the work, and then you know, my brother convinced me to, you know, since I was in New York more, he said, there's so many things at the Y. There's like all these group apps, but now again, you can still socially, you know, go online. I'm very old school, hence I was in nursing homes, and the world is not old school. I'm guessing everyone here is millennials. The world is not old school. Everything is virtual, which I think is a little bit upsetting because, you know, people are very, from the generation of millennial, I think a lot of people are very like only do online majority. Other than that, it's like when you think connection and socializing, it's not so much what you know, and your skill set, it's who you know and the connections you have, like family or friends for a job or shidduchs. But by the way, RZ is a great shadchan with all the shidduch project. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard. It's just like, you know, you don't want to, like, people, like there's just so much we're missing out on. You know, I think the physical aspect is really important. Like my older brother likes to do that bike for chai, if anyone's heard of it, and now they're talking about shutting that down. People's school year, it just, you know,
There's
people
so
can't.
much.
People,
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, look, for me, I'm not like going like, oh my god. Some people, it's different. People have different, you know, reactions, and I've
Right.
seen people online doing like life coaches and sort of like breathing techniques, because sometimes when you're alone, you feel, I mean, lonely. I mean, and it's just kind of gets boring, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
those are all excellent points, and I thank you so much for your contributions. And definitely, you know, this pandemic affects people in so many different ways, and we're all lacking with missing out on that social connection. Like I said, sometimes going to the grocery is like the highlight of my social interactions for the week. So I definitely hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Also, Sarah, I think that there's a message from David Muller. Did you see it? I think he's trying to message. I think he's trying to
Oh, I
send you,
just saw hello, everyone.
send you a message.
I only see hello, everyone. I don't know if there was something separate, but I
Okay.
did see.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if it was something else.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, someone else is in the waiting room. Okay.
There he is. Hi, David.
Hey, what's up? I didn't have anything earth-shattering to say. Just, you know,
Okay, well, thank you so much for introducing yourself. Thank you
saying
for
hi.
joining us.
Every comment
Yeah,
is
it's good to see you, RZ. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I know this is so
Hi.
special. I'd like to
Hello.
see you guys. Really miss everyone. Thank you, David. This really means a lot.
all right. So anyway, so I think that a lot of people, they're feeling, like I was saying, these feelings of fear, feelings of isolation. Some people are facing immense financial crisis as well, out of work. People who are married or are in relationships can feel very stifled with the monotony of seeing the same person and having nowhere else to go day after day. And oftentimes, like we discussed, our only social outlets are sometimes our cell phones, and that's very, very challenging for multiple reasons. And maybe in your past dating histories, maybe you've made some mistakes. Maybe you were too sure of yourself, you presented as too arrogant, or maybe you even blamed other people for why your relationships may have failed, because that's kind of our natural instinct. We don't always look back on something and say, it was definitely me, it was all my fault. Our instinct is to just point a finger at somebody else and say, it was her fault, it was his fault. But I want to challenge you guys to say, did you ever stop to consider that maybe there's something that you did to contribute to why certain things didn't work out for you? And that's something that I want to really deeply explore today. Like maybe you have anxiety about being in a committed relationship. Maybe you tend to destroy relationships and you're kind of your own worst enemy and you're preventing yourself from being happy. Maybe you always have a nagging feeling on your shoulder that there's something better out there and the person that you're with is just not good enough, and you need to be able to get rid of those feelings. There's a lot that may be going on within you that prevents you from being where you want to be. So there are 3 mistakes that people tend to make that hold them back from having this possibility of being relationship ready and being in the relationship of their dreams. And the first mistake that I believe that holds people back is that they're unable to humble themselves and see why they may have been the cause of certain mistakes that they've made in the past. So that's a big thing to consider, is what was my contribution to why things failed? You know, like a lot of times when you hear of a couple that, God forbid, gets divorced, we rush in and say like, what happened? What was the reason? And you tend to only hear one side of the story. He was abusive, or she was a bad wife, and that's it. But it's really not just one person, because both people impacted each other and interacted in a certain way that led to the relationship failing. And so too, when you get set up with somebody, both people impact each other and have a certain reaction with each other that correlate to why the relationship was not successful. So I want to challenge you guys to really sit and think about what your contribution could have been to why you're not where you want to be right now. The second thing is that a lot of people believe it's out of their control, that their situation is not their fault and they're just a victim. Maybe there's no good candidates left in the world, or maybe they feel they've dated everybody possible, or maybe the shadchanim don't reach out to them, or maybe they've only met losers this whole year, so it's just not going to work. Or they're taking a break from dating. It's always, a lot of times I hear it's a victim mentality. And I want you to take yourself out of that belief, because you're never the victim for your circumstance. You can always make choices each and every day to remove yourself from being a victim. You can always choose to be proactive and to get yourself closer to your ultimate goals. And you just have to find what those choices are. And the third thing is that a lot of times, things go in one ear and out the other. You know, you spend time listening to a class or reading a book or getting advice from a friend, and you're like, yeah, that resonates, that really makes sense. And then you walk away, and 10 minutes later, it's gone. The advice disappears. But what coaching challenges you to really do is to find practical steps that you're going to take when you walk away today. What changes are you going to make? Because otherwise, what's the point in being here? So you wasted 45 minutes of your time. That's not my goal here. My goal is for you to walk away feeling like you know what you need to do next. What will it cost you if you stay in this cycle of I hate to call it failure, but not being successful? You're super lonely right now. And a lot of times when we have pain and we feel bad about ourselves, that's a call to make a change. So if you're feeling super lonely right now, you have two options. You can sit and feel bad and be depressed, or you could say, I'm going to use my pain to become something better. And you need to take that as a fire underneath you to make yourself the best that you can be right now. Does anybody have any questions thus far?
Yeah, I have one question. Like, is it correlating to being isolated in COVID or just being single in general?
No, I'm talking about specifically during this time, how we're isolated, and also just, it's very painful for everybody across the board. And what are you going to do now to make sure that you don't feel so isolated, or to kind of still be promoting yourself, even though everybody's kind of, alone?
So just to clarify, so this is a silly question, but just to clarify, it's not a dating thing. It's just like how to emotionally get yourself not to remove yourself from depression and sort of like.
No, this is not just, no, this is for relationships. Because this, I'm asking you to think back to times when you were not as successful in a relationship, or what is preventing you from being in that relationship of your dreams right now. And we're gonna get a little bit deeper into that in a few minutes as well. Okay, so I'm just logging into sharing screen here also. So I'm gonna ask, what if you believe you're always just set up with the wrong kind of person? Sorry, the wrong kind of guy, I read that wrong. What if there are no serious girls? What if these are your beliefs? What if shadchanim have no time for you? What if you already dated everyone in Brooklyn? What if all of the normal men are already taken? What if you believe that instead of believing all of those old stories, you now make a conscious choice to stop thinking of those stories? What if you loosen your boundaries and your definition of right kind of guy to be a little bit more inclusive? I've had people come to me and say, there's nobody that is right for me because he doesn't have a certain kind of education. And we challenge the person to understand why they have those criteria. What makes somebody be the right kind of guy? Think hard about what your criteria are that you've set for yourself. What are your standards? What if there are serious girls? You just piled on too much criteria. What if you believe that, shadchanim don't have time, but actually they do have time. You have to find a better one that works for you. What if there are plenty of other people left to date in Brooklyn, and also there are candidates who are viable outside of Brooklyn? So what I'm doing here is I'm challenging you to shift your story. Everybody has a story that they tell themselves about why, oh, sorry, people are commenting that their screen is blank. Can nobody see this content that I'm sharing right now?
Nope.
Oh.
No content.
No content? Oh, that's so weird. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Sorry, it was just really outlining all the things I was saying. Let me try.
Well, we hear you.
You hear me? Okay, thanks. I'm so bad with technology. 1 second, let me share that again.
I think we're all just getting used to this.
Okay, hold on. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just went through like different what if questions. And the point was to challenge you to think about the stories that you tell yourself about why you're not succeeding in a relationship right now, and how you can try to shift and see the other side of the story. How can you change that story that you tell yourself? Oh, and what if normal may just mean boring? Why can't you experiment with somebody who is maybe a little bit abnormal? Maybe they're interesting, maybe they're exciting. Really examine what your definitions are of what normal is and what kind of person you want to be with. Wait, we have another what if page. Can you see this again?
Yeah, I could still see it.
Okay, can you see the what if?
No, not water. Yes. What if?
What if, yeah? Okay, good. What if you don't make an internal shift within your thought process right now? Where will you be in 3 months? Where will you be in 6 months? Where will you be in a year? You'll be right where you are today. Now is your time. Now. So here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. Okay. I mentioned before when I started this discussion that there's a key secret, a core belief that I discovered through all of my studies and years of going through this that I want to share with you guys. And the key secret, the core belief, is that you have the capability, you have the power to change any relationship in the world by simply changing yourself, whether that's an annoying sibling, an annoying father, an annoying child, an annoying spouse, an annoying boyfriend or girlfriend. I just use the word annoying a lot. Obviously, it could be anything else like irritating or mean. But if you change the way that you interact with that person, you can shift the way that they are as well. And that's really powerful, because when you understand that, you can shift any dynamic, not by demanding that the person changes, not by loading them up with criteria or suggesting that they go to therapy or take medication, but you can actually change them on your own. And what I need you to do is to stop wasting energy on everybody else around you and looking to see what they're doing wrong and why they're not good enough or whatever, but really to look at yourself and ask yourself, what are you doing to be your best self? Because when you step up to the plate and you improve yourself, you will end up attracting that person who you've become. You will end up attracting that most valuable, worthy person. So I want you to really focus all your efforts on you. And now is the time to do that while we're all kind of homebound.
You mean like sort of self-evaluate?
Self-evaluate, exactly.
Like goals and qualities or improvements?
Exactly. We're going to walk through that process right now. So it's a 3-step process. How do you change yourself? Step 1 is that we start to internalize. What does that mean to internalize? I want you to re-examine a past relationship that's failed and to really look back and review the reasons that you believe it wasn't successful. Okay? And I want you to see, what could it have been from the other person's point of view? What did the Shadchan tell you why it wasn't successful? Did they give you any feedback? Did the person give you any feedback? How can you see the world from their eyes? Because ultimately, their reality is the only reality that mattered in that relationship at that point. The way that they saw you, not the way that you saw yourself. And it's very easy to blow off a person and say, they weren't right, they weren't this, they weren't that, but how did they see you? And if you actually start to listen to that advice and to internalize it and to try to make changes based on what they said, you may see that you're interacting with people in a new, interesting way. What does this mean? How do we relate to this? So let's say you're on a date with somebody and you feel like she's a bad conversationalist. So you're like, oh, not for me. She doesn't know how to have a conversation. So what I would tell you to do is, how were you in the conversation? Were you a good listener? Did you encourage her to ask the right kind of questions? Did you have interesting insights to share? Because obviously the way that she reacted with you wasn't so good. Maybe this person's not a bad conversationalist across the board. Maybe it was something about the way you showed up. Maybe you had a bad day at work and you were tired, so you weren't really into it. But we have to really examine ourselves. How could we really improve every single situation that we're in? Okay. But also this can get dangerous because you don't want to let all the bad criticism get to you. I see somebody raise their hand. Gail, would you like to contribute something? You can unmute yourself. Because I'm afraid if I touch something, I'm going to mess up my whole screen. So, Gal, whenever you want to participate or share your comments, feel free to chime in. Okay, maybe that was just a mistake. Oops, wait a second. Okay, so the danger in constantly listening to all the feedback and taking everything to heart is that sometimes you can be too hard on yourself and you could start to internalize everything and start to feel bad. And that, I don't want that to happen. Take everything as a suggestion with an idea, a possibility. Maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I'm too critical. Maybe I was too boring. Maybe we didn't have chemistry. Not as a definite, because maybe there will be somebody else afterwards who really appreciates you for the way you are. And that's amazing also. But I just want you to explore these possibilities of how you can change yourselves and look to see how you're contributing to the way you are in relationships and in the dating world. Another thing also that I think is really powerful is to relive the times that worked for you. What were good relationships you had? When did you have shadchanim calling you again and again to set you up with amazing dates? What were you doing that was right then? Because you can try to find ways to repeat that. And also just to revisit those in your head, to really meditate on those times. It's extremely powerful. I actually one time heard a story of a skiing team that was preparing for the Olympics, and they tested two teams. One team, they tried to have them improve their skill by skiing again and again down a mountain. And the other group, they asked them to visualize and to imagine themselves skiing down the mountain. And at the end, the team that improved the most was the team that just visualized, simply sat there and imagined themselves skiing, and that team improved the most. And it teaches us that the power of the brain can actually change who you are as a person. So if you're able to take time now while we're in quarantine and visualize yourself being super successful, being in a happy relationship, feel those feelings of joy, your body will be able to have that experience much quicker afterwards, and you will actually live up to those successful visualizations.
The law of attraction.
Exactly. I'm a big The Secret fan. Very into that.
Yeah.
Thank you, whoever chimes in. The last part of the first step is really to also have humility. And that's a key component to being able to change. Humbling yourself, accepting that maybe, just maybe, I'm not the perfect person. Maybe there are ways that I can improve. And to really open up your ears to what your friends or your mother tells you, like, does she always tell you, why are you wearing the same shirt day after day? To not just blow her off, but to say, am I wearing the same shirt? Like, is it time to upgrade my wardrobe? And to just accept the possibility of change and of criticism. How does the world perceive you? What is the reality that other people are whispering about you behind your back? What could it be? And to investigate those possibilities. The second piece in changing yourself is called actualize. So what are you going to physically do to make yourself better? Because we can spend hours sitting here tossing around hypothetical ideas that we need to do. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do to put into an action? What is your action step here going to be? How are you going to do it? And by when are you going to do it? Is it going to be by the end of this week? Are you going to reach out to 3 shadchanim and remind them what you're looking for and that you're available? Are you going to try to introduce a couple of your friends this week? Because maybe by you introducing them, they may think of you and know of other people. Are you going to put together a Zoom social setting for a few single friends you have for this Friday afternoon? Are you going to create a new network of people? Are you going to read a book about love and relationships over this Shabbos? Set deadlines for yourself. Put reminders in your cell phone. Hold each other accountable. Find a buddy who can do this with you, who can hold you accountable for taking your steps to bringing yourself to the next level. And I think what would be nice if people are comfortable chiming in here and they want to comment in the chat box what their commitments might be. So this way we can kind of read them out loud and give each other a little bit of chizuk and hold each other accountable. So if anybody is comfortable sharing, obviously you don't have to if you don't want to, but I really applaud anyone who wants to. I'm sure there might be some people who would love to share.
What was the question again? Like sharing what?
The question is, what would you want to share with us something that you would like to commit to, that you're going to hold yourself accountable by, let's say, this week or in the next few days, what change you're going to make, what steps you're going to take this week to make a positive change in your life right now. And then also by you sharing, you might inspire other people to make some changes as well. Any brave souls here?
Yeah,
Yay.
I'd like to say something.
Okay, great. Please share.
I just want to say, when a person does a lot of self-introspection, a person can get down. And then when a person gets down, he's not the happy-go-lucky self that the girls want to see. So in the same way that you have to, let me say about the change, okay? I was always wanting to to marry somebody that work together with each other, like an out-of-town girl, where you see that the out-of-town girls, they work together with the boy. And, whether the boy comes with a car or doesn't come with a car, they just have fun on a date. But the New York girls are not that way. The New York girls, as I've seen, they want to be, I'm not saying for everybody, but a lot of them want to be pampered, and a lot of them want to be treated like a queen. So even though I feel that really the relationship should be, it's even because the girls are working the same as the boys. I have a decent job myself, but the point is that the girls want to be pampered, so I'm going to try to give them what they want. But even though I feel that it works better when they don't want to be pampered so much, I think the relationship is when everybody, each one works with each other. Doesn't matter who's taking it out, who on a date, and just together. The point is that it's a little bit hard and pressurizing for a guy, but I'm going to try to do that anyway. That's my change, to try to do it anyway, even though I think, it's an unfair guy has to do for the girl, but whatever, I'm going to try to do that anyway.
Okay. So I appreciate what you shared. What I'm hearing you say is that you feel like there's an expectation with an in-town New York girl to really go above and beyond and to pamper the girls, and it's an unfair expectation, but you realize that maybe you need to do more. But what I would like to challenge you today is to examine your story that you tell yourself about New York girls. Maybe they don't need to be pampered as much. Maybe there are some girls that need to be pampered, but not all girls. What does pampering even mean? Do you need to show up on the first date with a dozen roses? Do you need to send her jewelry after the third date? What are these standards that you're setting for yourself? And how can you change those standards? And maybe when you change and evaluate those standards on a New York girl, you'll find the New York girl's a lot more palatable. Maybe it's not everyone, but that's something for you to really work through. And I applaud you for coming up and for volunteering and for sharing with us, because that was a great.
Let me put it this way. I have a lot to offer. In other words, I have a good job and a good person, but it doesn't come off on a date that well. Whatever reason it is, social, whatever it is. But the girls, they're not going to take me because I have good merchandise. They want to be social. They want to be as a snazzy guy, whatever it is. So whatever it is, we're not dressing to the style of the 21st century, or whether I come with a car or don't come with a car, or whether the cars or whether I spend whatever on a date, so much money on a date. But the point is, it's the person that they should be looking at, not what
Right.
is what we're trying to impress them with.
You're right. And that's your expectation of what you want them to see. You want them to see you as a full person. But what I'm challenging you today to think is what you just volunteered is a lot of criticism that you maybe hear about yourself, or maybe that you might believe about yourself. You mentioned like maybe you don't wear the most snazziest of clothing, or you don't have a certain kind of car. So not that you have to go out and do all those things, but see, try to.
I'm going to have to try to do that, because that's why I feel you asked me to make a change. That's why I feel that that's what I'm going to have to do.
You might have to try that. I'm asking you to step outside of your comfort zone and to say, what can I do different that I haven't been done before? Because maybe what I did before didn't really work for me.
I was zip carring until now, and people are telling me that zip car is not good enough. It doesn't look good on a date. You have to have your own car. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. You have to, even in New York, even though New York is hard to have a car because it's hard to whatever certain places.
Right. Look, I'm not here. That's not my job as a coach to tell you what the right standard is. I'm only asking you to evaluate what you think about your specific situation.
Okay.
That can be changed.
Thank you very much.
So I hear you, and I think that's those are some really great places to start. Okay, somebody commented below that there's a great book called Flourish by Martin Seligman, and it's highly recommended. Thank you, David, for commenting that. It's great for self-discovery and self-improvement and positive psychology. So I think that that's a nice commitment. If anybody wants to take that on and try to get that book and read through it, that may be a nice place to start as well. Anybody else have any other commitments that they wanted to share, or any other thoughts before we move on? Okay.
I think I don't know who that person was that was talking before, but there's a line between looking at yourself and thinking about what you need to work on yourself, and then there's also believing in yourself and having that show up and come across to somebody else that you're going to be with. You have to really like yourself and really be confident in who you are as a person. And then you have to sort of sometimes have this, under this belief that, okay, I like who I am. Now, is the other person going to like who I am? Great. If not, okay, you know what? That's not for me. But if you're going to try to constantly cater yourself to what you think everyone else wants you to be and what you think everyone else is looking for, then you're not being who you are. And then nobody's going to want you because you're not being yourself.
100%.
I agree with
really
that.
appreciate that you said that. That my message is not to constantly try to cater to everybody else. My message is to try to evaluate what can you experiment with that maybe didn't work for you in the past, and maybe you could try something else out. So like, let's say you feel like people criticize you for, you always have like a messy shirt, or you don't brush your hair. So, you know what? Oh, I could say, screw that. This is who I am. The world can accept me for who I am with my messy hair and call it a day. But that may not get you the right kind of dates that you want. You may not be attracting the beautiful girl with the nice hair herself. So maybe you should try to get your hair done, or have it styled, or brush it, or put in some gel, or whatever it is. And then maybe that little change will inspire a shift in who you're attracting and how the relationship goes. And if it doesn't work for you, then you can drop it.
I agree with
asking you to experiment with changing.
I agree with both of you. I agree with what you at the bottom. I don't know what your name is said. Like on the one hand, like when you're in school or camp, or I was gonna say when you're young. I mean, I'm not gonna say we're not young, but we're adults. So it's like this is who I am. In terms of a job, this is who what I have is some people try, and it's like it's like I'm not gonna just completely change. But from what I understand, you saying the lead. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. The leader. Sarah. So I couldn't see it for a second, but what you're saying to all of us is you're not here to totally remold us. It's just like little discrepancies that are like tiny, like change the way that you do the same thing. Like maybe it's like, so, but I agree with, hold on, David, I agree with what you say. Cause like, I'm not going to totally change. Maybe I'll do something different. Like whether it's relationships or work or school, maybe if it's not working, but you're going to, it's something you're going to do for a relationship, try it a different way. I mean, I don't think anybody would go out with unbrushed hair, but like if somebody, like nobody's going to completely try and change you, but it's like, I don't know. Am I not making sense? I know I'm kind of rambling here, but.
Well, I think it's Einstein who said, insanity is doing the same thing over
and over again. Right. You should definitely try and, especially if you're in a new relationship, like, you might, from old things, you have to you can keep certain things the same about you, but you kind of have to change your ways a little. And that's the fun of like getting a relationship. It's like a fun, playful thing. Like when you think of what?
Somebody commented Einstein had
unbrushed hair.
But he owned that. That's the thing.
That was his trademark. And you know what? I don't know. Was he married? Was he in a good relationship with somebody?
I don't think he had a problem.
I wouldn't put him up on a pedestal as the paragon of what we should aspire to in relationships.
I think he was socially awkward.
First of all, Roxy Huber. Okay, I think that I'm very old school, so I'm like but nowadays it's all about equality, or it should have been all like I'm very old school, so I always look at it as the man makes it. But now, and as a millennial, I think nowadays, even like my brother has trust fund baby friends, and they're going back to work, because we're all millennials here. Like it's not even about working to make parnassa; it's about survival. Because even if you're born into like a wealthy family, just the way the world is compared to how all of us were growing up, I mean, life is different when you're kids. But the point is, you got to work. If you're not, happy with what you do, you can try and change that. That's kind of hard, but I don't know, I'm kind of rambling. I'm just throwing different points out here. I mean, what I think a relationship is if I may, somebody to, if you're having a bad day, somebody you can talk with about outside your colleagues, more than just a friend, someone who, if you're upset or you're feeling inferior, that person can sort of lift you up, even if they know they can't like change your day at work, or so just inspirational words. I mean, think about it. The first relationships any human being has is family and school, but at a certain point you kind of got to be on your own and go out and find someone special. You hope it's gonna, I mean, everybody wants marriage in the long term, but it it takes some time. It's all about connection. In terms of changing, you could change certain things, like maybe your your hobby. Like a relationship is a give and take, whether it's friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend. I think people are very intimidated to open up sometimes, so the icebreakers sometimes are hard, sometimes it takes more than one date to, like I've been gone out with shadchanim and set me up, and they're like, maybe you want to try it again. Somebody tried to set me up with the same person, more than once, because they're like, maybe give that person a try. So I'm just throwing out different points here. Sorry, I know I'm kind of rambling, but just there's like so much to take into account when.
Yeah.
What about the other side of the coin when you don't get feedback?
When
Are you asking me?
From anyone?
If you don't get feedback, if you go out with someone, it just doesn't work, and you don't want to say certain things because you don't want to hurt someone if you're saying no, and if you say here's someone else, often I don't hear anything back. And if I was doing wrong, I don't know how to improve it because I'm not hearing back.
You're right. That's a really challenging thing when you have no idea what went wrong. And if a shadchan set you up, it should be the shadchans should kind of be upfront with you and let you know what went wrong, and maybe even just push them to say, like, please, I would appreciate feedback. I want to know why that, what went wrong, or what, especially if you felt that it was a great date. And if not, don't look too deeply into it. Don't make yourself crazy. Just brush it off as wasn't for me and move on, because you could really drive yourself crazy thinking about what went wrong and how you can improve. I'm not asking you to be super introspective and whatever, but I just want you to spend this time to look back and to see how you can make specific changes. Try, experiment with different things. And also another important thing is to, like I said before, look back at what went right. What went right for you in the past, and try to repeat those behaviors that worked for you. Maybe you have a special outfit that, wowed people on the first date. Wear that outfit every time. Or a special first date place that is super fun that everyone always loves. Keep going there. Do the things that worked for you. Repeat the patterns that went well. That's my my little bit on that. The last piece, the last technique is called materialize. And that's when the changes start to happen. I want you to, don't waste time if you're not going to make the changes. Stop reading books, stop going to classes if you're not going to do anything about your situation. You need to move past your comfort zone, break away from your routines because they aren't working. Explore another path that might lead you to that blissful relationship. You should always be in motion, always have motions. And at times where you don't feel you're having the motion, get up and start to move. Call somebody, pick up a phone, send an email, go on your dating profile, tweak it, put up a new picture of yourself, update your picture. Do something today that will make sure that you're respecting yourself and you're respecting your time enough to become the person that you envision and having the relationship that you envision. I think also another really powerful thing is to find a mentor or buddy up with a friend. And I mentioned this in the beginning, even if it's not a friend from on this call, find another friend who can hold you accountable, who can say, what did you do this week to help out, yourself in terms of finding a relationship or having a new date? How are you progressing? Hold each other accountable. Get a life coach. Doesn't have to be me, but you deserve to be in that place where you need to be. So find somebody who you work well with that can keep you on task, that can keep you on target, that can keep you moving. It's always important to have that motion. Even though we're on a lockdown, continue your motions, continue to move towards your goals. Find those commitments, do what you need to do to get where you want to be.
Sarah,
and then
mind repeating the 3 steps?
I have them right here. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I am summing it up right here for everybody if you want to screenshot it or whatever. Just to remember, building emotion while sheltering in place is the first step was to internalize, to pause, to look inside yourself, to review your past mistakes and your past successes, to humble yourself, to understand that maybe there are things about you that you can experiment with, that you can try to shift. And if they don't work, lose them or try again. Okay. The second thing is actualize. So you want to actualize and make it happen. You're going to put in place for yourself a task or a commitment. By when and what am I doing? You're going to make that happen. And the third step is materialize, when it actually comes into place, holding each other accountable, seeing the results of what your efforts are, and finally being ready and being prepared to have that incredible relationship. So that's really the extent of our discussion for tonight. If anybody wants to chime in or add in any other thoughts, greatly appreciated. Now is your time.
I heard a quote that's kind of apropos that keeps running through my head. I read a book by Lori Gottlieb called Maybe You Should Talk to
I
Somebody.
love that book.
Oh, so great. She's so great.
So great. I don't see who's talking. Who is this talking? I don't
This is Becca
Becca.
London.
Hey.
And something that really grabbed me from that book is that inspiration is the booby prize of therapy. So like once you get that like flash in your brain that you're like, oh, I get it. Like if you don't take that and use it to inform your future actions, like that it didn't help you to have that inspiration. So I really like the actualize and materialize stages of this. The internalize is really that flash of inspiration, and then like taking it, making it yours, making it concrete, and using steps to like take that forward and apply it to your life. Like I feel like that's really important.
Super, super important. Why read the book if you're not going to change from it? Why? And it takes like a long time to read a self-help book. If you're not going to walk away with even one piece of information and make that change, then you just wasted hours of your time. Don't do that to yourself.
Can you suggest a bunch of self-help books that we could read to help to improve our relationships?
Okay, so I really, really love Laura Doyle's books, and I've read, she has one, I think it's called The Surrendered Single, possibly. It may be more for women, I'm not really sure, but I did not read that dating book, but I read her books on marriage for the couples that I work with, and they're like fantastic. I think a different perspective. It's very shocking for some people, but it works. In terms of other books,
do you know the name of it besides her last name?
I think it was called The Surrendered Single. That's just one I could recommend off the top of my head.
What's shocking about it?
What's shocking about it is that, well, again, I didn't read the one for singles, but I read the one for marriage, and it's shocking a little bit at first because she reverts a lot back to a very traditional sense of relationships, and she asks women to really shift themselves and some of their behaviors in order to have the men kind of like lured in more. But it's really interesting. I found that a lot of her stuff is very true and it's very useful and it really, really works. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoy her stuff. I think that she's onto something, but people have to be able to swallow it. Oh, I see somebody, a few people commented, Laura Doyle is great. It does work. Thank you, Roxanne. And somebody posted a link to, The Surrendered Single, Practical, Attracting, Marrying. Great. Thank you to says Weisenberg, who sent the link for the Amazon book.
Any pointers that you could point out from what you read from her book that you would say that does work?
Okay, so one of the things she says is to never criticize the person that you're in the relationship with. But let's say you don't like a behavior that the person you're in a relationship is with. So she guides you through how to share your complaint without making the other person feel bad. So for example, let's say I feel like my significant other is spending too much time on the internet and not paying attention to me. So naturally we might start to say, can you please get off your phone? You're always on your phone. It's so annoying. But what you're telling the other person is you're nagging, and that doesn't inspire somebody to actually want to spend time with you. It actually pushes them further away from you.
Yeah.
And your goal is to attract that person to you. So what you need to do is you need to look into yourself. What's your heart message? What are you actually saying to that person? What do you want from them? And what you want is, I miss you. I want to be with you. So if you went to that significant other and used those words, where it was coming from a place of vulnerability as opposed to a place of criticism, and you said, hey, whatever your name is, I really miss you. I want to spend time with you tonight. Do you think we can have a half hour together? That comes across as so much more intimate. And as a result, the man or the woman or whoever you're with is going to be drawn to you because you're speaking from your heart and not from a place of criticism and trying to make a change in the other person. So it's just like, I think that people have issues with you should be able to complain. You should be able to say what you want. But she guides you through a way of getting your message across in a very emotionally connecting and loving way. And I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, and also if I could just add to that, I think they say like it's how you say it. Like even if you want, like they say, if you tell someone you're so, there was a complaint, I mean, it's just better to say, I feel such and such, and don't complain so much. Because like you said, when you nag, even if it's true, even if you have a right to feel that way, I mean, it's not going to push it's going to push them away, you know?
Right.
Like they even say when a kid, you know, a teenager, a young kid has problems and the parent punishes them or you're accused, even if it's true, it's not going to help the situation. It's kind of like you use positive tone, you know, being vulnerable, like you said.
Right, but not saying, excuse me, can you please get off your phone? 'Cause
No, I mean, like, just
nobody
sort of
wants
like
to
there's a
be
balance
parented.
between,
Right.
you know,
You're
completely
not
negative.
there to parent your significant other. You're not there to change them. You're there to help them become better. You're there to be in a relationship, to be a partner. And you're not, like a lot of people go into a relationship thinking, how can I change him? How can I make him better? He's this, he's that. That's not your goal. That's not your goal. So I think it's a great read for in a lot of ways. Trying to think of, there's a book, I forget the author's name, but it's called GPS to, I think, to a Happier Marriage. It may also be really, really good. Again, it's a marriage book, but I think it's the same skills that you can use in any relationship. It's really the same thing across the board. It was written by, I went to his lecture. He was a rabbi from Panama. He came to our shul a number of years ago and he spoke. And it was an excellent, excellent book about also just navigating relationships. So I'm not sure if it's on Amazon or somewhere else. Oh, I'm sorry, Roxanne, I spelled your name wrong. And thank you for your kind words. Okay. Anybody else, any final thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was really enjoyable, and I hope you guys learned something and feel committed to making a change today and felt inspired, and not just inspired, but that you actually do make those changes by that time that you set for yourself.
Someone asked a question about Zoom dating.
Oh, okay.
On the chat. He asked,
what's my view on how often someone dating on Zoom should meet? Like how often the Zoom date should happen? Okay, I guess. Okay. So again, like I said in the beginning, me as a coach, I don't tell you what's right or wrong, because everybody has their own individual standards and their own individual feel for what's right or wrong. So if you're like a person, like maybe you're a single parent with a bunch of little kids, so having a Zoom date one night a week would be stressful for you. So I wouldn't tell you the standard should be 4 nights a week. Maybe you're living alone and you're very lonely and one night a week would be amazing. So you kind of just have to really evaluate and speak to the other person and see how often they want to meet. I guess if it were me, I'd be trying to get in as many times as possible, just because people are bored. People are home doing nothing. Take advantage of the time and chat away if you can. So I thought that's a good question, but again, the answer is really depends on your specific situation. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you so much. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you can reach out to me. I put my email address on the last screen, and feel free to reach out if you have any other thoughts. Okay, I guess I will end the Zoom. Rachel, do you have any final comments to add, or is she even still here?
This one, she's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. Okay, I'll unmute you.
Thank you so much. This was so helpful, Sarah. I definitely I felt very impacted by this. And, you know, even though it was virtual, I definitely felt it was a great way to connect with all of us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. This was really, really nice. Thanks to all of you guys for coming out and for your patience as well. Okay, I'm going to end it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good news. Shavua tov. Thank you, guys. Shavua tov. Thank you.
Oh, that didn't end it. 1 second.
And if anybody wants Sarah's information, feel free to reach out.
Yes, for sure. I'm here.
Thank you. You're the best. We love you, Sarah.